Hey everyone. So last week we talked about habits that make your life easier. My husband and I sat down and did that together. But this week I want to talk about habits of a mother. A couple of months ago, my friend got me a book that was called Habits of the Household, and that kind of inspired this topic within myself for habits that I do within my own household. And habits are different for every single person. It depends on who you are, your routine, your schedule, your religion, just everything kind of contributes to your habits, what's important to you, what's not. So this is just my take on motherhood and being home and my day-to-day life. So I wrote down about 7 points that I want to share with you. And these are habits that I hope that you take away with. If you do some of these things, let me know in the comments. If you don't, if you're going to start doing them, let me know as well. And let me know some of the things that you might do that I don't, that maybe I can add to my routine, because I'm all about adding in anything that is helpful to myself, my family, any routine that'll make our lives easier. I'm all about that. I have so many different roles in life. I am, most importantly, I would say, I'm a daughter of God and I'm a Christian. I am me, I am a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I'm so many different things, but I want to talk more so about my role in my home. So number one, I would say cultivating peace. We as moms have so much power over this. We can cultivate peace in our homes like no one else. I feel like we are the peacemakers, the peacekeepers. Our role in this area is up there. So some ways that I do this in my home is I'll start with my morning. So I wake up around 5 o'clock in the morning. And do I need to do that? No, but I do it only because I like to have my alone time in the morning. It makes me a better mom. It makes me a better person. I don't like waking up and immediately having to jump into mom mode, wife mode, any kind of mode. I just want to belong to myself. I want to be by myself. I want to drink coffee in silence. I want to read my devotional. I want to do basically whatever I desire that morning. That aids in the peace in your home, because if you start off the morning on a good note, you start it the way you want to, you tend to give your best self to your kids and your husband once they are up. If I don't do that, if let's say, because there are days where I'm just so exhausted where I will not wake up and the kids will wake me up and I'll hear mommy, mommy. And those mornings, sometimes I'm like really irritated. Sometimes I'm like, my whole day feels thrown off. And then some days I can just kind of push through the overwhelm. But for the most part, my days are not as good when I don't take that time for myself in the morning. I have seen how beneficial it is, so I've kept it up for years. So even on the weekends, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that really works for me. So that cultivates peace. You set the tone. When the kids wake up, you're more pleasant. You're ready to handle them. You need a diaper change? Great. You want milk? Great. You want breakfast? Great. I've already had my time. I'm ready for them when they wake up. And that's so important to me. I don't like being the mom where when they wake up, I'm stressed out. I'm like, I don't want them to feel that tension. And then it affects kids as well, how we are with them. I don't like rushing. So part of me getting up early is being ready. So when they get up, I get them ready for school. I do their hair. I'm not in a rush. I'm not trying to fit in my couple minutes to have a coffee or to just get my head straight. I'm already in a good headspace. So that's very important to me. Another way you can set the tone, I love to do this. I actually do this every single day. I put on some music. I will look up, I do a lot of jazz music, like light jazz music. I do worship music. I do things like that. I don't start the morning with anything loud, obnoxious. I don't start my day with like putting on garbage. Like for me, garbage is like anything that overstimulates. So maybe not the best word for it, but anything that's just like too much, I don't do, because I feel like it goes against peace. Like if something is like loud and obnoxious and annoying, or I don't know, the words are not, I make sure that I'm intentional with what I put on. And the kids know, like I'll say put on music and they'll put on jazz music, like they just know it. So yeah, that's just a habit that I have, and I feel like it helps with that morning. I feel like peace starts in the morning. How you spend your morning will dictate a lot of the times how the rest of your day goes. At least for me, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you can have the worst morning ever and then once the morning's over, you're great. But for me, it's hard to bounce back from a hectic morning. So having peace. So second one is routine, which is a big one. So I feel like when it comes to peace, the opposite of that would be what? Like chaos, overwhelm, those types of feelings. So routines are so important. So I just mentioned some of my routines that I do to have peace in my home. A couple of my routines are the night before, I do my nightly tidy, and that means I clean up the kitchen, I do the dishes, I start the dishwasher. I basically get everything ready for the next day so that I'm not bringing today's mess and frustration or overwhelm into the next day. So if I wake up and the kitchen's clean, it's 5 o'clock in the morning for me. I grab my cup, I pull out my coffee machine, I make coffee, I sit down, nice. On the days that I don't do that, I'm waking up, I'm like making noise, I'm like trying to clean up, I'm trying to get a clean cup. Like I know it might not bother some people, but it's just another obstacle. And I feel like it doesn't help in aiding the peace that I'm trying to cultivate in my home. In the morning, after the kids are, gone, I will unload the dishwasher. I will spend time with my son. I have been doing, laundry on Fridays typically, and then on the weekend I clean the sheets. I just think that having a routine as a mom will keep you sane. You know what's expected, you know when things are gonna get done, you know that okay, I have time to rest, I have time to do this. Like your mind isn't jumbled and all over the place. I know that some people don't do well with a super strict schedule. That's okay, but have some type of routine in place. For example, laundry. That's a big hot topic. Let me know, do you do laundry once a week, multiple times a week, or every single day? I used to be big on doing laundry every single day because everyone would say a load a day keeps the overwhelm away. No, I don't want to think about laundry every single day. As a minimalist, I have more than enough clothes to get me through a week. My kids do as well. So what we do is we all have baskets, put our dirty clothes in there. Everyone's dirty clothes are separated, which I can show you guys a more in-depth laundry. I should do that, a full day of laundry. But I do everyone's loads separately because it fills up a whole basket now. And our system has changed over the years, but I finally feel like I've perfected it. So I'll do laundry typically on Fridays. But let's say Fridays we have an appointment, something's happening, whatever. 2 weeks ago I volunteered at my kid's school. I'm flexible. I'm not I can't do anything on Fridays. I try to make sure my Fridays are for laundry, but if I can't, I'll just do it Saturday or Sunday. So I am flexible. I'm not to the point where my schedule feels like it's overbearing, but I'm okay, if I can't do it that day, it needs to get done within the next 2 days or so. But yeah, so for me, I don't want to have tasks pending on my mind all the time. So on Mondays, I will deep clean the bathrooms. I typically don't have a schedule for mopping, but I like to mop at least twice a week. And then I will do one bedroom at a time. So Tuesday, my bedroom. Wednesday, Mila's bedroom. Thursday, the boys' bedroom. Friday, laundry. Saturday, sheets. Sunday, catch all, do everything. Little bits and pieces here, vacuum the rugs really good. I do whatever needs to be done. And then Sunday is obviously we go to church. That's part of our routine. But other than church, it's just basically a day of rest and setting up for the next day. So routines will save your sanity. If you have no routine and you're just kind of walking around your house all day, every day, I can see how that could get really depressing. I know a lot of stay-at-home moms who are not happy staying at home, but I feel like it has a lot to do with the overwhelm. So the routines will really help in that sense. Another one, so 3 would be declutter your home. I know it's basic. I know we talk a lot about minimalism and decluttering, but when I first quit my job and I was a stay-at-home mom, all of the junk around me was driving me crazy. I felt like it was closing in on me. I felt, not that I wanted to go back to work, but I felt so much less overwhelmed as a working mom outside of the home because I wasn't looking at my stuff all the time. And now when you're home, you're confronted with all of these decisions you need to make because clutter is delayed decisions, right? You have this pile over here, you have this mail over here, you have all these clothes on the floor, you have clean laundry over here in the corner. All these things, when I was working, I'd be like, I'll get to it this weekend. But when you're staying home and you're around it all the time, you don't want to just like get to it in the weekend. You just like want it. It's just overwhelming. So declutter your house. We believe, my husband and I, that the easiest and most effective way to declutter is to start in the easiest part of your home. What's the least cluttered part of your house? Is it a small bathroom? Start there. Why? Because just like anything else, when you build that momentum, you tend to see the whole project through. So if you're starting at the hardest part, sentimental items, for example, that's gonna take you a really long time and it's gonna feel like you're getting nowhere. And we don't want that to happen. We've gone through this many times. We've helped people declutter. Start with the easiest part. And then when you're done with that little closet, that little bathroom, that little room, move on to the next easiest place. Do it to completion and then move on. The hardest part of your house should be last. You don't want to start in like the garage where you have like thousands of things. So that's just my take on it. But I do think that decluttering your house will really help with that overwhelm, which will then go back to my other points where you are creating peace in your home. If you're not overwhelmed and overstimulated by everything in your home, you are going to be peaceful. Your home is going to be peaceful. You have the authority in your home to bring the peace, or you can bring the overwhelm and everyone around you will feel it. I can't speak for the dads. I can't speak for the husbands. I have a husband who is a dad and he can talk on that subject, but I can only control what I can control. And I know that me bringing a peaceful environment to my home is beneficial to everyone, including myself. So that's what I want to do in my home. I think that it's really important and it's within my control. Number 4, budgeting. So I feel like a good habit to have is to budget. So my husband and I did Financial Peace University back in 2014. It was like right when we got married. I think that we did it before we got married, and then so we were set up really well when we did get married, and we were debt-free in 2015. We remained debt-free for all of these years until last year. We did unfortunately get some debt that we are tackling right now. I can make 1,000 excuses, but I will say, which is one of my points here later on, is that when I was very depressed and anxious and I felt like I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't make a meal, couldn't do my normal things, I overspent a lot. And it was never something I had done before. It was never something I had been through before. I had never been through such a dark season in my life. And outwardly, everything was great, but inwardly, I didn't realize as time passed, it was getting worse and worse. So yeah, it's not an excuse. I do not like having debt, and we are tackling it. We've been debt free for 8 years, and then to have debt now, it's just like, it's so uncomfortable. And I know it's, I'm giving myself grace because in that time frame, I couldn't even cook a meal. So yeah, I overspent. A lot of overspending was in like Target. Like I would do Target groceries and stuff like that, so I didn't have to like leave the house. And yeah, just a lot of careless spending, and that I didn't buy anything outrageous, didn't do anything crazy. My car needed 4 new tires. My husband's car broke down. There was just a lot of things that happened. So anyway, one of those habits that we got back into was our budget. We were so firm. Then we kind of stopped in a hard season, got into a harder place, and now we're like seeing the light where we've got our budget, we're back on habit. And I will tell you, after going through that hard season, there is nothing more rewarding than having a budget and knowing exactly where your money's going instead of wondering where it went. I have since deleted Target off of my phone. I canceled Amazon. I even deleted the Starbucks app, the Dunkin' apps, things like that, because those are areas where I tend to overspend. I had to break these bad habits of thinking I deserved an iced coffee anytime I left the house. I know that there's memes about it and there's jokes, and yeah, people will say $5 is not going to break the bank, but what's $5 a day, sometimes twice a day, or even once a day, every single day of the month, every single day of the year? Like those things add up. And I am a mother, so I typically have a kid or 2 or 3 with me. So it's not just a coffee. It's like a coffee and cake pops and this and that. I don't think I've gone to Starbucks and spent less than $10. It's typically more like 20 every single time I go. So a good habit to have is finances in order. Get your budget out, get a budget planner, do whatever you need. You can do it on a piece of paper. I actually it's called Clever Fox. I will see if my husband can link it. He's the one who does the YouTube stuff. So I'll see if he can link it in the description. It was like $20 and it really keeps me in check. Like my husband and I now, part of our habit is we're doing Saturday budget check-ins, and we just did one this Saturday. We sat at Starbucks and it was so fun. It felt like we were dating again, because we used to do that back in the day. We sit down and do our budget like outside of the home. But anyway, it was nice. But I think it's definitely a really, really good habit to have, because first of all, if you're a stay-at-home mom, I know that there are people where finances are not an issue, whatever. But there are some people who, when you're relying on one income, you have to be wise with how you use the money. You can overspend so much to the point where you might need to go back to work. So let's be wise. Let's steward our money well. Let's make sure that we're not just looking at money as like something we can throw around. A good habit to have is reminding yourself that, let's say you don't work and your husband is the only one who brings in an income, right? That's both of your money, but your husband is taking hours of his life to make those dollars. Dollars are time. Dollars are not just money. You know, you have to look at it like, I don't want to be dramatic, but let's say your husband makes, I don't know, $20 an hour, $30 an hour, whatever, and you just went and got coffee or got something useless, a little plant here, whatever. He had to work a whole hour for you to just go get a cake pop and a coffee. And I think about things like that because I don't want my husband to be overworked. I don't want to be spending all the money. That was just an example. I don't know what people's husbands make, but it's just an example of like, money is time. So just be mindful of that and keep that habit. Keep your husband in mind, even yourself. If you bring in money or you have some type of income, like social media, I bring in some income and I have to steward that wisely. I can't just be like, oh, I brought this in, now I'm going to use it wisely. So at this moment, I'm using it to put towards the debt that we're about to pay off. So I think that is a really good habit to have. Not to mention, when you budget, you are teaching your kids to be financially sound. So for example, when we go to like Target or if we go somewhere, my kids you're not gonna catch them throwing tantrums, crying for toys, demanding I get them something. They just don't do it. It's never been a norm for us. We've never allowed it. We never go to the store and walk them to the kid aisle and tell them, we don't do that. Yeah, for their birthdays we have, where we're like, you can pick a toy or this or that, but we've never created that habit where now it's like anytime you go somewhere, they feel entitled. We do not struggle with that. And I'm proud of that because we are raising our kids to not need or depend on materialistic things for happiness. My kids could have all the things in the world, but you know what they want to do? This chair I'm sitting on, they want to spit on it. They want to run around outside. They want to play soccer with their dad. They want to play with chalk. So for us, our kids, they really are some of the most unique kids. I know I'm biased. They're my kids, but they're really great kids and they're really appreciative. And the fact that my daughter, she could like something, but if she's not using it, she will initiate, like, can we donate this to a kid who needs it? Or can we give this dress to my little cousin? Or things like that. And I feel like when you lead by example, your kids, you're setting them up for success. You know, they're not going to be kids who find their worth in their material items, you know, and that's a whole nother topic. I could go on for days. I can talk, in case you didn't know. Anyway, so I just think that is a really good habit to have. Finances. Be smart, be wise. Don't take the fact that if you do stay at home, don't take it for granted. Be mindful, you know. The fifth one, which is extremely important. This one could probably go like number one. And honestly, if these get out of order, there's around 7 or 8 that I'm gonna say. Get your mental and physical in check. So this is something where I have obviously struggled with. I became extremely depressed in October. I was in the hospital I just went downhill. I was having chest pains. I went to get checked out. And then from there, they're like, follow up with a cardiologist. I made a whole video on my anxiety and depression that you can go back and watch. The comments are really eye-opening, and I'm like, wow, so many people are suffering from this. So many amazing comments I got on that video. I at one point told my husband to like delete it, archive it, and he said okay, but then he forgot. And I'm so glad he didn't do that because the comments are wonderful. So when I say get your mental health in check, moms, sometimes you can be dealing with postpartum depression way longer than having a newborn. So I didn't know that I was still struggling with postpartum depression. I had my daughter in 2017 and I was really struggling, but then I got pregnant 9 months postpartum, and I guess my hormones like balanced out because I literally was day and night. I no longer struggled. I was like totally fine. And then I gave birth and it was horrible. Like the baby wasn't sleeping. He was colicky. He was projectile vomiting. It was so bad, but I thought it was normal, right? I'm like, okay, I feel like this is the baby blues. Everyone says the baby blues. I'm like, it wasn't as bad as when I had Mila, so we're good. And then third baby, I'm pregnant. Find out I'm pregnant in February. March, the world shuts down with COVID. So I didn't know. I was already struggling with depression. Like I was in shock. I was scared. It was so much unknown. I didn't know if I was going to be okay being pregnant with COVID. I didn't know if my newborn was going to be okay once he was born, October 2020. So there was so much unknown where when I gave birth to him, I was so deep in depression that I didn't realize that it got worse. And I was struggling with not only like depression and fear and stuff like that, but then I had postpartum depression and anxiety. And then I was dealing with it and it was just unmanaged for so long. And then last year in October, but here's the thing, I didn't think it was that big of a deal because I love my life and I love my home and I'm happy and I love my husband and I feel like I have a great life. But then I didn't realize that the low I had gotten to wasn't a normal low. So thankfully therapy really like helped me get into a better place. And I learned, my therapist said, all of this started with untreated postpartum depression. And I could not believe that. Then COVID happened. Then I had a newborn. So it was like all of these things. And I'm like, no way this all started with postpartum depression. But we went so far back in my history and like my medical history, my life. And yeah, untreated postpartum depression. So moms, if you've had kids, if you feel like at a low, if everyone's telling you it's normal, it's not. You should get help. And there's no stigma behind it. Like sometimes we need medical intervention. Sometimes we need a therapist. Sometimes we need just a support system, a village that people say like it takes a village. And then sometimes we need medication. So a good habit is to check in on your own mental health. Are you okay? How are you feeling? Are you able to get back into reality, or are you dwelling a lot on different things? Are you feeling really low? Are you feeling down? Are you feeling extremely fatigued to the point where it's hard for you to do a lot of things? If so, seek help. You never know. You might be fighting every day to be okay, but you don't have to fight that hard. I was fighting every day to be okay. I never wanted to get on medication. I never thought I needed a therapist, like a one-on-one thing. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't have huge trauma to unpack. Boy, was I wrong. I did. But I didn't know that my trauma was trauma because I always think people had it harder. So keep your mental health in check. I personally did therapy. I'm still in therapy. I don't think I will ever quit. I just can't see it not being a habit and a part of my routine. It has to be. I started medication last year. And I was on it for about 5 months, and I was in a really, really, really good place. Got off of it for a couple of months. The reason I got off of it was because I had a lot of things going on. I had gallbladder surgery. We were doing a lot of blood work, and I just didn't want medication in the mix. So I got off of it for a couple of months, very unnecessarily. I didn't need to get off of it, but it was just one of those things. I was like, I can do this on my own. But actually the medication was doing its job. So I ended up getting back on the medication, and I've been on it since. And I'm doing great. I have my ups and downs, but one thing remains the same is my downs happen when I'm not sticking to my habits. Truly, whenever I'm having like a rough week, my therapist would be like, well, let's go back to Tuesday. What happened Tuesday? The reason he does that is because I see him Monday. I'm on routine, right? So if I see him Friday, he wants to know what I did the rest of the week. Did I leave the house? Did I meet with a friend? Did I stick to my working out, all of that? And if I didn't, there's nothing more I need to do than to get back on routine, sticking to my habits. Okay, and then for physical. this has been the hardest. I feel like I am really good at like a lot of things, but this is the hardest thing for me, is to get my health under control. My weight, as you guys know, I've been very open with my weight loss journey. It's been up and down. I'm just being honest. I have lost a lot of weight. I've gained a lot of weight. I've lost a lot of weight. I've gained a lot of weight. Back in 2021, I lost 40 pounds. Then when I got super depressed, I gained it all back. Then I got on medication, gained a little bit more, or I lost a little bit. And then when I got off of the medication, I actually gained weight when I got off, because I was in such a good place when I was on the medication that I wasn't overeating. And then when I got off, I was getting a little bit anxious, so I would just like not stick to my habits. And that is like snacking, and I'm dealing with this in therapy right now, but people can cope with stress and anxiety by eating. And that's something that I have been dealing with. So to me, it's like, I'm so stressed out. Like, I want to sit down and have a big bowl of cereal. So like things like that, where like I was numbing the pain with food. And not only that, I wasn't working out. Now, after lots of therapy, I have made working out like my number one priority. A lot of my anxiety is like being a hypochondriac, being just like afraid. I have health anxiety, but then I'm not living a healthy lifestyle as far as like my weight and like just my internal. And so it just doesn't make sense. Someone who is a hypochondriac should take better care of themselves, right? But then I'm doing the opposite. But that has a lot to do with the fact that I would tend to put myself last, because I wanted to make sure my kids were good, the house was good, my husband was good, like everyone was good, because I am an acts of service type of person. But when I do that, when I like give myself whatever's left, I'm too tired, So I would say, I'm gonna work out later today. I wake up at 5 a.m. So later today, if it's like 5 p.m., I'm too tired. And so I started making it a non-negotiable. And so I will take my son into the garage with me and we'll work out together. So that's been good. So it's very important to do that. It's also really good. I saw a Instagram reel of a mother with 2 teenage daughters, and she said that since her kids were little, she would let them work out with her because she wanted them to love fitness as much as she did, and have like a good relationship with fitness, have a good relationship with food, all of that. And I'm like, you know what? That's a really good point. I didn't have that type of example growing up. I never saw anyone in my family work out. No one was active. No one played sports. No one like went out on the weekends to like do anything like that. So I think it's great. My husband sets a really good example for the kids. He's running, he goes to the gym, he plays sports, and I want to join that. I want to be a good example too, and I want to be healthy. My kids don't really know anything about weight and stuff. They're just not at that place, and I don't speak to them about these types of things because I don't need to concern my kids with adult things. I'm just trying to be a good example, and I want to live long for them. So a good habit, moms, is to get your health in check. Because you ever heard you can't pour from an empty cup? Like, you got to fill your cup first. That doesn't mean that you're being selfish. It doesn't mean that your kids are being neglected. It doesn't mean that everything else is you're above everything else. It just means that when you are your best, physically and mentally, you can give your best. Not to mention, when I work out early in the day, I am happier and I am healthier the rest of the day. Because I'm like, I'm not going to eat something bad. When I say bad, I know people don't want to label good and bad. What I'm saying is, when I work out, I typically want to have like high protein, like really nutrient dense meal, versus if I don't work out and I'm just like bored and I'm like, legend, your goldfish is looking great. That never happens, but just an example. So yeah, I would say get your mental and physical in check. Sometimes it takes getting your mental in check before you can get your physical in check, which is what happened with me. But yeah, so I made that a habit, priority. And also, one thing I learned is that I think I mentioned this already, but I used to not want to go work out until the house was clean. Now, if we had lunch and I'm like in a short window where I need to just go get a workout in, I will not clean up the kitchen I would just go get my workout done. And I know it sounds like no big deal, but for me, it is a big deal. I have diagnosed OCD. Those types of things will drive me crazy. A mess would drive me literally insane, to the point where like, I cannot do anything until this is done. Like, cleaning the dishes is more important than working out. It's not. It's not. I have good habits, but I also have to prioritize my habits. So losing weight, top priority, top habit. And yeah, we got to be here for our kids. And that's part of what it's going to take. Number 6. Don't be a nagging wife. Don't do it. I used to struggle with this. So when we first had kids, I felt so overwhelmed. I was trying to figure out motherhood. I was trying to figure out my new life, all of this. Hi, baby.
Daddy.
He's in the room. This one. He's in mommy's room. Careful, baby. You're going to hit the camera.
Where's Grandma?
Grandma's at work. Come here. Give me a kissy right now. Give me my kiss right now.
Yeah.
Give me my kiss right now. You're so cute. Okay. All right. My son is next to me now. But number 6, don't be a nagging wife. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the times it's like a joke, like, oh, my wife is always nagging. It's not a joke. And it creates like this hostile environment for everyone involved. Like when you and your husband are not like one, it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't go with the peace that we're trying to create in the home. I feel like a lot of the times, especially when we first had my daughter, I had so many expectations for my husband. Like I didn't want him to like leave the house because we had a newborn. I didn't want him to do, there were so many things I didn't want him to do, and I had all these expectations, and I was only thinking about myself, and I was very naggy. Like, I'm like, you're gonna go play basketball on a Tuesday? You're gonna do, like, I used to get so annoyed, but it wasn't anything he was doing wrong. It was just that I was overwhelmed. I didn't have like my own stuff together. Therefore, I was like constantly looking at what he was doing and feeling like he needed to like save me. I didn't need help for the most part from what I didn't need him to help me on a Tuesday night. It was just the principle, like, if like I'm not going anywhere, you shouldn't go. It was like nagging for stuff that made no sense. Or when he came home from work, let's say, because at one point he was a stay-at-home dad, and then I became a stay-at-home mom. So let's say like when he was working, he would come home and immediately I'd be like, here's the kids. Like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm this. And it was just, when I was a working mom, I like to come home and have a second, and I was so excited to see my daughter, but I needed to come home and like tap into mom mode and tap into like, you know, turn off work and get into motherhood. And I wasn't giving him the same courtesy. I was just like, I'm overwhelmed, and being a stay-at-home mom is so hard, and I haven't had a break, and here's the kids. And it's like, they're two different jobs, because staying at home is a job, but being at work is a job too, right? They both have different demands. I've been both. I know that they're both hard. But I wasn't giving him the same courtesy. I was just nagging and nagging, like, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, no one should have to come home to that. This is just how I see things. It's like, I didn't want to come home to that when I was a working mom, and I know that he doesn't want to come home to that. So what we have decided was, yes, by the time he got home, I was ready for a break. Especially when we had 3 kids, like, you know, we started to do it like the first 15. So like when he came home, he would obviously greet all of us, but then he would go change, take off his work clothes, take a few minutes, and then he would come join us. And I stopped doing that whole throwing the kids to him as soon as he got home. I don't do that at all, ever. I used to do it in the beginning when I was like overwhelmed, like I gotta go, like I need to go to, like, but I felt like it was very immature, and I felt like it was very like, it was me worrying about my own feelings versus his. And then I had to really reflect on what I was doing, and I'm like, I can't treat my husband like this. Like I can't do the things to him that I don't want him to do to me, you know? No one deserves that. Since the beginning, we've always had our like days. So he's always had 1 day a week where he goes to play a sport. It used to be basketball, now it's volleyball. And I have my day of the week where I go meet with a friend, have coffee. So we established that early on, and we've been doing it for years. No issues. I know he's going to go. He knows I'm going to go. Sometimes I don't even want to go, and he'll encourage me to go because he's like, I think that you should, because you haven't left the house. And so like he's my like reminder, like, hey, you need this for yourself. Hey, your therapist says you need to go every week. You know, so we kind of keep each other in check. And I never have to question if he's going. Like, I know he's going, and I know that he's doing something that he loves to do. And I encourage him. With the running, I made sure he got running shoes. He started to play basketball a little bit here and there again. I made sure he got basketball shoes. Like, I'm such an encouraging wife that if he wants, whatever he wants to do, if he wanted to run a marathon, you're going to run the marathon. Me and the kids are going to be cheering you on. So the opposite of a nagging wife would be like a loving, supportive, happy wife. Like, we have to do better. I don't know if you guys have the same like algorithm as me on like Instagram and whatnot, but a lot of these wives are shaming their husbands and putting them on blast. And I'm like, you can't do that. That is not okay. They are not, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you are experiencing anything like that, violence, this does not apply to you. I'm talking about people who are in like healthy relationships. Who?
What's Maid?
Maid?
Maid, yes.
I don't know. But if you're in a normal, healthy relationship, there's no reason why we should be kind of putting ourselves against our husbands. We don't keep score. We don't nag. We don't make them feel bad. We definitely don't put them on blast on the internet for a mistake. Imagine if your husband was making fun of you on the internet the way some of the wives I see make fun of their husbands. It's just not something. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Be each other's support system. Be each other's rock. Do all of those things together. I love you, baby. So yes, I feel like it is a really good habit to just make sure you and your husband are on the same page, that you're a team, you're not nagging, you're keeping his feelings into account. And for me, there are so many things that I do. I'm such an acts of service person. So I would say that I'm extremely traditional in the sense that like I like to serve and I like to like do all of these things. So I like to wake him up with coffee. I like to make his food. I like to do his laundry, things like that. And I handle most of the things in the home. And it is a clearly identified thing. Like, he works outside of the home. My job is the home. Does he help me when I need help? Yes. He helps me with two of the main things. I get the kids ready in the morning for school, and then he walks them to school. We live like right down the street. And then at nighttime, while I'm cleaning the kitchen after dinner, like I cook dinner and then I clean up everything after dinner. While I'm doing that, he's giving the kids a shower. So we share those two big loads, that is morning and night, the hardest part to get through. But throughout the rest of the day, it's me. I'm the one cooking, cleaning, laundry, all of that. I handle it, and guess what? I handle it without keeping score or nagging. Yeah, I do most of it, but I'm home. Like, if I was working, I wouldn't be able to do it. I am here all day, so it makes sense, you know? I don't want him, like, I take pride in, like, when he comes home from work, like, the house is clean and the food is made. But there are days where I couldn't get to every single thing because I do have kids to take care of, and sometimes your day can just not go as planned. But if he comes home and the house isn't the way I like it, it doesn't bother him. Like, it's just like, okay, she must have been busy. He's never expected it. He's never told me to do anything. I just do it from the goodness of my heart because this is my home. I take pride in it, and I take pride in serving my family and loving my family, and this is a way that I do it. And number 7, find a hobby. I spoke about this last time, but as a mom who's been staying at home for 5 years now, I lost my like identity. I didn't know what I liked anymore. All I did was basically stay home, take care of the kids, hang out with my husband. Like, I didn't have anything of my own. And even when I would leave the house, it would be like to just grab a cup of coffee or something. But I would need to like find a friend to hang out with and whatnot. But I'm like, I need a hobby where I can do it whenever I want by myself. And your girl's not an athlete, as you know. I'm like just trying to like work out. I'm not into sports or anything like that. But I did want to do something that was active because, like I said, I'm trying to put my health first. I want to get into the best health and shape in my life, and I'm really working towards that. So I started inline skating, and that's something that I used to do with my husband years ago. And then once we had kids, we did it like one time. But now I've been skating like 3 times a week, and it's been amazing. It's such a good workout. You burn so many calories, and it burns. My legs feel so good after. I got some really good skates. I'm gonna have my husband link it in the description because I went through 3 pairs of skates before I found the right ones. Back in the day, I had K2 skates, which I love that brand. But this time around, I kind of went with reviews and stuff, and I got like the rollerblade brand, the Blade Runner, whatever. And I returned 2 pairs, and I just went back and got my K2s. They are the most comfortable. They have the BOA dial-up, so they're amazing. You just like spin the wheel and it tightens your skate. No laces, no pull-ups, nothing like that. Just a perfect fitting skate every single time. And I love it so much. So find a hobby, whatever that might be. Maybe you do something with your hands. Maybe your hobby is reading books. Whatever you can do where you don't have to depend on other people. Get a hobby where it's for you. I will end with this one. There are a couple that as I'm speaking, I'm realizing that I didn't touch on. I really want to talk about comparison and like what we see on social media, how wives, moms, women, we compare ourselves to other people. And sometimes it's not in a malicious way, but it's more of like you want to be where they are. You want to have the routines all these things that are so unrealistic. So I really want to talk about comparison. Maybe I can just make a whole entire video of it. But for right now, the last one I'm gonna leave with you guys, which is number 8, the final one, and something that I'm really working on with my therapist is acceptance. Something that I really struggle with is accepting things that I've done or mistakes that I've made, or that goes with like mom guilt. And I have a hard time if I make a mistake that pertains to my kids. I beat myself up, and it does make me spiral into that depression and anxiety. There are mistakes that I've made for my own self that don't harm anyone, different things like that. And then sometimes I have a hard time accepting either that it's done, everything's fine, or that it's done and I have to deal with the consequences. Accepting where I am, accepting what things are. I always want to be in control. I always want to change things if they're not how I want them to be going. So I've had to like lay that all down and let it be. And I never realized that I didn't have like self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance. I definitely had self-awareness, but that was the only thing. So I'm just like hyper aware of everything that's going on, and it has a lot to do with pure O. So there are different forms of OCD, and there's like OCD that where you checking doorknobs and handles and things like that, and you want everything perfectly organized. And even though I have that, I have pure O, which is like the obsessive intrusive thoughts. So anyway, acceptance was a big one. And my therapist said, anytime I start to be hard on myself and start to feel like I'm not good enough, or like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or I have the mom guilt or whatever else, he told me to say the serenity prayer. And anytime I'm feeling very overwhelmed, I will say it and I will write it on paper so that it really sticks. So I'm going to say the whole thing with you, and then I am going to end the video, and I'll see you guys next week. So the serenity prayer, if you don't know it, is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen.